Welcome everyone to episode 6 of Aurelia. In the last one we have done this residential hive in here, and today we are going to continue with the area between the Arcforge Industries Plaza. We have built that, I think, in the third one, and the residential hive what we have built last time. We can see it here, and we are going to continue with the left area in this shot. So first we're going to start with doing some plazas, and then we're going to connect them together using that shopping sunken gallery that we have kind of already started doing. We have seen this already in the previous episode, but I just included this in here so it makes more sense because we kind of skipped through it in the last one. Okay, so what is this place going to be? It's going to be like a sunken shopping area. We have all these commercial buildings on the ground, as well as this tram road, which is going to be obviously, you know, putting people in this place and serving as kind of the main stop for the public transport in this area. And those paths that I was building there, those are going to be kind of like the surface level of this place, or like the second level of this place. So like I said, we're going to be doing 2 plazas in here on each side of, or each end of that commercial sunken street. So we're going to start with this one. This is the one that is right next to the canal, or the pond that we have been doing some time before. Now, before we go into that particular plaza, I'm just putting down some of these buildings in here. Again, kind of commercial buildings to form some kind of like a start of that sunken street. And in here, we're going to do the plaza. Now, in this episode in particular, we are going to use some excessive procedural objects. It's going to be quite interesting because I'm going to be using some buildings that we have, and I'm going to be changing how they look like so that they fit more the places that we are doing, which is kind of the point for procedural object mod anyway. You know, to kind of customize what you have at your disposal right from the workshop. So we are starting with that right here. I placed this, I'm not even sure, this is probably a commercial building, right? And I really like the brick wall the commercial building has, right? So I just used procedural objects and basically only picked this side wall in here by just making the rest of the nodes or rest of the vertices from that building go like very, very low. And this is going to allow me to have exactly the same brick texture for the building that we have placed there, and this like a retaining wall. Now the edges of the retaining wall are not exactly that nice, so I again used procedural object and kind of shrunk this little pillar. I think this is a railroad bridge pillar, and kind of made it into like a decorative pillar on the sides of those walls. Now over here, this is an office building. No, wait, commercial building again. But I switched it for procedural objects. This building is actually quite tall, but we only need like the bottom floor where the kind of like a commercial shops would probably be, and some kind of a small little short upper floor, just so we can fit it underneath this pavement, like a second level of this plaza, right? So as you can see, I had to kind of you know, work with all the vertices, put them exactly below the surface right here. And then I just used 2 copies of this building and put it like this in here. Kind of need to make sure that all the windows are kind of looking all right, you know, at the crossing between the 2 buildings, I suppose. And then, as you can see, just copy pasting this brick wall to the opposite side, and just filling all the edges where the retaining walls end with these decorative pillars, as you can see. All right, so this entire plaza, actually on the live stream, I called it the procedural plaza because there's pretty much all of it on it are procedural objects. Even the decals I switched for procedural objects, but more on that later. As you can see, I'm also doing for the second level a lot of these ploppable pavement blocks in here, and filling some of these roofs that would be looking kind of weird with the grass. All right. Now, as I said, when it comes to the surfaces, at first I used some of the planters in here at the second level first. Kind of was not sure what shapes should I do here, but I was just using pretty much the same geometry as the stairs or the roads that we have, kind of making everything, parallel to something. And down here at the first level, at the main plaza, I suppose, we are first starting with the fountain in here and then continuing with these planters. Kind of try to go around the fountain with the planters and make some kind of an inner area. That's going to look a bit different maybe, and it's going to be a bit more like a relaxing place, I suppose. So I use these tiles. I think these are from Park Life, although I'm not sure. And for the rest of the place, I used, I think those are actually vanilla tiles textures as well. But these I had to switch for procedural objects. And the reason for that is very simple, because if I use just decals, first, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to control the edges like that. And most importantly, the decals would actually show on some of the buildings, for example, or especially the retaining walls. They would show on the sides of them, and it would look very, very bad. And also, if you are overlapping some decals, especially the tiles, or like cobblestone decals or something like that, then they can somehow kind of glitch out, like graphical glitches might appear, and it's just not looking that great. So it's much better to actually switch decals into procedural objects and then kind of control their sizes a bit more how you want to. So while I was explaining that, we have already finished that place down here, and we are moving to the second level. Now, the second level is considerably less detailed. I was just doing some buildings in here. Again, kind of using procedural objects. I'm probably not even going to say that anymore. It's kind of, given that these places are just going to be done with procedural objects, because you kind of need a very, highly customized buildings. And most of the places that I do in the city, especially like decorative plazas and stuff like that, I definitely do want to use procedural object buildings because it's just much more convenient and you can definitely fit it to the places that you need. Now, obviously, the biggest downside for that is that they don't work. They are just decorations, but it is what it is. And I don't think that it makes the city like bad or something. It's just a few buildings that I'm using for decoration, that's all. Now, over here, I'm doing some kind of a fake entrance underground because, again, like I was explaining many times before, we are not doing parking lots in the city, or at least not that much on the surface. So I'm doing, from time to time, I'm going to be doing these like fake underground entrances where I assume a parking lot or some kind of parking garage is located, right? Some like a bigger parking garage, not just a small one, maybe for the entire district or something like that. Or not district, a block maybe. And this is just a little, like a looped road, right next to the gallery building. Okay, so this is kind of it for the upper side of the plaza. I was just kind of decorating it with all the bushes, trees, flowers, all that kind of stuff. As you can see, I also used the palette. I just put all the trees and flowers into like one little area from which I pick it up and put it down where I wanted to. And that's all for that first plaza. And now we are going to the opposite end of that sunken shopping street. And we are going to be doing this part of it, all right? This side of it. Now, these stairs in here, I already had them there for quite a long time. Actually, right when I finished the basics of the street, I put these stairs here to kind of, remind myself that I want to do some kind of a tiered plaza in here. It's going to be kind of small and kind of hidden inside like a taller building block, I suppose, but it's going to be looking really nice. Now, first I started doing some of these like elevated planters with all the retaining walls and stuff. It was actually kind of difficult doing this. I do believe that these just a few minutes of me, doing this time lapse of the build, it's probably cut, edited from just a few hours of the stream. So, it took me kind of a long time doing this place because, again, a lot of experimenting with all the surfaces and the details, decorations, and stuff like that. And obviously, just like technically building this was not exactly that fast, but you can probably see that in time lapse as well. So making sure that everything is perfectly parallel to some of the roads and stuff like that, as you can see. And again, procedural objects. Doing this building, basically, if I like a building's floor, for example, like one floor, like the bottom floor usually, because especially the office buildings usually have like a very nice like first floor, which is like very open with big windows and stuff, then I basically just take that away from the building by, just hiding everything else from the building, just like this. I just kind of crushed the building and only the bottom floor remains. And this is going to be like a cafe building. But on the top of it, we're going to actually put the unedited version of this building to kind of make it look similar to that, to this one, to the bottom floor. So this place, this plaza, is actually going to be like functional. We're gonna all these stairs are going to have like pedestrian roads on it. It's actually going to be very like lively. This place is going to be used by a lot of people. I haven't done that yet, but in the future I would like to maybe put some, I'm not sure how they're called. I never really used that, like the park people generator or the event generator or something like that. Or maybe I could experiment with the park life's, well, parks, converting this place into a park life park, basically, so that people would just, go there to the restaurants and stuff and kind of hang around, and it might look actually better. So as you can see, doing more of these stairs. This place is going to have actually 2 entrances from the like a road level, which is probably like a third level, I suppose, of this entire place. And 1 entrance down, or actually 2 stairs, but kind of in almost the same location, down into the shopping street, right? Now, all around these stairs, I had to do these retaining walls, kind of, align them nicely. It's actually very nice that these walls are very, very smooth, even if you are doing some different elevations for the neighboring nodes. So that is definitely working in favor. So at this point, I was still, again, not exactly sure how the surface is exactly going to go. I really wanted to enclose this entire plaza, like between some really tall buildings. I already mentioned that I kind of did that to some extent, but not completely. It was, at first I wanted to kind of overdo it a lot more, to kind of really hide it inside some kind of a high density office block. And also, at first, I wanted to cover it with glass, but I don't think it would look exactly that great. So I kind of left it open, and it actually turned out looking all right. So doing some of these planters a bit more on the sides here. These planters are going to have some flowers and stuff like that, and obviously they are a bit elevated, so that they are also creating some kind of a barrier, so people don't fall down from the second level, down to the shopping street, right? And doing a lot of these custom surfaces, especially up here on the road. And then I had to, use a lot of the terraforming road, let's say, which is basically just a road placed somewhere where you really want to have a much greater control over the terrain heights. So there's actually a terraforming road, which is literally called the terraforming road right now in the workshop. But before that, I was just using like a simple road, which is like hidden underneath all this, and just putting the surface like really, really low so that I can just create my own surfaces exactly how I want to. So this is actually the last retaining wall that we are going to do in this place. And right after this, we are going to do another procedural object building. Now this one, I need to kind of crush from the sides, not from the top, but from the sides, because obviously it's a bit too wide for this place. But I really liked how it looked, because again, I kind of like a one portion of the building, which is the bottom, but at the same time I kind of want to make it at least the same height as the row of buildings that's behind it. But we just needed to exactly fit it between the stairs and the grassy area that we have on the left and stuff like that. So kind of detailing, starting to over detail, because the basic shape of this place is done. Doing this the caffeine-rich coffee shop in here. And doing the sign, obviously, I think it's looking really nice. I'm actually going to be using this particular sign a bit more in the city because it's looking really, really good. And along with these details that probably would be very common for these like restaurants or coffee places. Okay, so just like before, I decided to do these tiles, and again, to have better control over them, so I can kind of fit it to this curved place, I'm using procedural objects for these tiles. And actually in this place, the like a table area is enclosed in the retaining walls, right? Or the concrete walls. So if I use decal, it would show on them. It would kind of spill towards the walls. We would actually be able to see it over here because I was using the unedited decals, kind of, but as procedural objects. And if I do the last one in here, watch it, then it's going to be shown on the vertical side of the wall. It was just a fraction of a second where you could have seen that, but it's kind of a big deal, obviously. It doesn't look good. So it's much better, it's much greater control to use procedural objects for these decals. Now, like I mentioned before, I want this place to be working. So I'm using these pedestrian paths. And just like we did with the Arkforge Industries Plaza, I'm using the invisible pedestrian paths. Now, in here, I kind of decided that I'm actually going to switch it for the invisible path and then kind of, align it because it's much easier, I suppose. You can literally see the people, how they are using it, how they are, clipping through the stairs or flying above them. So you can adjust it accordingly. And the plaza actually, or the stairs on this plaza actually turned out looking really, really good. And people are actually looking really good walking over that. Now, there's a kind of bit of a, how to say that? Well, there's cyclists going over those stairs, and that's kind of not exactly that great, but we can just assume it's some, I don't know, futuristic bicycles that can go over stairs, easily or something like that. So to connect these two plazas together, we are going to now finish with all the details this shopping street. Now, this one is going to be covered with the glass, as you can see here, and I just put down some planters with some green bushes inside it. It's not exactly particularly that much detailed, but it kind of complements the area nicely, I do believe. So in these places, in these little triangles between the roads, I was just putting grass because I thought that the glass was not exactly going to look that great. And on the side of the street and between the highway and the street, I'm just putting some procedural object buildings if I really wanted to fill that place. But these buildings are actually, the unaltered buildings are functional office buildings. Now, in this particular place, I was not sure at all. This actually took me a long time to pick a building for this particular location because it kind of needed to go underneath the highway. So there was some kind of a limitation to the height. And I really wanted to be just fitting the place, right? So, like I said, after a long time, I picked the cosine building, but it was too big, too tall. So, you know it, procedural objects, right? And I actually made the building double the size because I just copy-pasted it on the side there. And it's actually looking really nice because it also has some green planters in front of it, which is obviously going to make my life a bit easier. So this unused space between kind of the residential buildings that we have placed some time ago already, I just kind of decided that I want to put some more structures in here. Something not exactly that tall. So this height is perfect. And they actually fit very, very well together with those already existing buildings in that area. And actually creates a very nice looking a residential, an alley. Just a few details left here as we are coming towards the end of today's episode. Hope you liked it. In the next one, I was thinking of doing something a bit different, so it's going to be a bit of a surprise. As you may or may not know, I have taken a break from live streaming, as I lately kind of struggled to find time for it, but I will definitely keep up with Aurelia episodes for this channel, and also I wanted to start doing other games as well, so if something else than cities pops up in here, don't be alarmed. It's definitely not a sign of me not doing City Skylines anymore, alright? You can also follow me on Twitter for some channel updates and so on. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. If this is your first time on this channel, feel free to subscribe and also leave a comment, rate and share. I'll see you in some next video. Thank you again, have a nice start of the week and goodbye.